Hello, everyone. And in classic first live critique comeback fail mode, for whatever reason, my screen recording software did not capture the images. So I'm just going to go through everybody's one more time and just do like a quick recap of notes and let everybody know what's going on. So I will go through them alphabetically. Excuse some of my existing arrows on there from the actual live one. Okay, cool. So I'll start with Ben and then just go through everyone alphabetically. All right, cool. So Ben, so this is what we were talking about for the last one. So I think compared to your old one to your new one, the new one definitely got brighter, but we overall got a little bit too contrasty and we lost some of the values that we'd seen from the previous one. So really, I just wanted to push up this bright value here in the middle. But I did like some of the contrasty things. So what I did was I just like pushed that in there a little bit and then brighten that up just a touch more. So basically it's a matter of just kind of splitting the difference between the old one and the new one. I think that this value matches your reference a little bit more cleanly and in a little bit of a better situation, but you're really, really close. So I would just make these final tweaks and then we'll be ready to move on to the next, your next challenge. David did a great job with this. So this was, let's see, we had the character from Toy Story 4. Very cool. Match the intensity of the light, really got this rim in there well. The colors are looking perfect. Got that highlight in the exact right spot, which is so funny. Even got some of like this little bit of light coming down here. The only thing that I said that I would have added was on the, sorry, I'm going to Control Z to get those lines away. There we go. On the screen left side of this character's face, we're getting a little bit of red being pushed in there. And I thought just getting like a touch of red on this side of the ball man would get a little bit more of that shaping in there. Just because like we've got some value differences going across, but just getting a slight bit of color variation would help with the shaping in there as well. All right, next up we have this one from, let's see, grab the original reference. Yeah, okay, so here was the original. We have the reference from Wednesday, the TV show. And what we were saying was this image is the really great choice because beautiful stuff. We've got good dark values, white values, and this kind of electric blue color. So everything kind of falls into one of those three values. Dark hairs, light white clothing. Her skin is paler and not a lot of saturation in there. And then so we've got this kind of like desaturated thing except for the electric blue. If we look at yours, we've got that in here as well, which works well, but there's a couple things that are missing. One is just like that pure saturation of that electric blue. The other is that if we look at the levels, I want to push up these brightest points a little bit. And I'm not exactly looking at the main character because I think that starts to really get blown out, but like pushing that up here and just looking at the surroundings, I think feels a little bit better. The other thing that I was pointing out was, and then it was a matter of getting the, making sure that this blue color that's in there is nice and saturated and crisp. So it'd be a little bit brighter, but really making sure the saturation is up to that level. The other thing, and I kind of mentioned this in the written critique portion last week, but there's an interesting thing that's happening with the shadows. Like I'm seeing, there's like this shadow goes black. The shadow under this arm goes black, but then like if you look over here, all of these shadows go kind of blue, but also not getting super dark. Like if you look, if I kind of zoom in on this region, just on the side of the shirt, it's like it rolls off in this bright, it's rolling, and then as we get here, it just stops. And then everything inside of here is just one constant color, which makes me think that there is something that is stopping that value from going any darker. And it's not light, because light has some variation in it. If I had to guess, that would be like a shadow limit. There's one of two things that could potentially be happening. Number one is that there's a shadow color limit that's on your light, and that's stopping it from going darker. Number two is that there's something happening in the post effect, like you're doing some sort of, something in a Nuke or Photoshop or whatever that's clamping that value. So I would just look into that and make sure that this is getting a little bit darker, because then, like that would be like if this shadow on the side of her face just kind of clamped at like a blue that was kind of in that range, right? And it's not. It's allowing it to go into like the full dark value. So that would just be the main thing that I would look out for there. So again, to recap, just making sure that we're getting a little more brightness in some of the lighter values, saturation in the blues, and then checking why we've got a couple different tones of shadow value in there as well. All right, Julia, love it. Great reference from the Mitchells versus the Machines. I love, like I was saying, I love this one. I love the slashing light across her face. I love the secondary light bouncing up in there, the characters mostly being in the shadows. But I think the main thing that I would focus on with yours, and I think this is a good structure overall and everything's looking great, is I think that there's too much going on with the lighting. I would simplify. So we've got this light coming in from the background. We've got a light coming off screen over here. We've got the red light coming up from the electric stove, and we've got green light shooting across here. What's happening is it's kind of all starting to blend together a little bit in terms of value. In fact, I was going to do this. I don't think I actually did this in the live critique, but let's take a look here. So if I look at the values by putting this on, I really want this central conflict point right in the middle of the image to be where a lot of the value is, right? And so in order to do that, we've got to tone down what's going on back behind the character. So I would tone down this light back here. I would take off the light that's kind of coming in from the screen right-hand side. And I would really, I would tone down the light from the green coming out of the cannon and just really make it just like a nice little glow. But because what's happening is it's shooting all the way into the middle here and then it just dies. So it's not actually influencing the lighting on the scene too much. It's just kind of distracting our eye away from this red, because this red is where the conflict is coming. They're charging at each other. So I would really like to focus in on this red. Make sure we're getting some good under lighting on her face. Maybe intensify that a little bit. You've got it here, but also push it, push it up on the wall, push it on this on the plane, push it on the side here. Make this red light the battle zone or whatever, and really kind of push that in, and that'll allow this stuff to go darker and this over here to go darker, which will create kind of a natural vignette around it, and just really play this up as our main conflict point in the middle. But it's a great structure. Everything's looking really good. I would just really work on that. Holly, okay, cool. So I was saying that it's really nice to have this reference against it, because you've got this bounce light coming in here, and I think it would play really well for the character in the background. So what we have is, I like the setup of the scene. So we've got two characters in very different emotional states. We've got this character kind of in the shadow. We've got this character in the light, and really kind of playing up what the difference, loving the bath and the teacup, very angry that the bath is happening in this character's teacup. So, okay. But I would play that up even more in a couple ways. Number one is I would allow this light based on your reference images, lots of warm, beautiful light coming in and lots of warm values, especially all these woods. Allow that to play in here. Allow this sunlight to get warm, right? And lots of bounce light, because light's going to hit off of this marble or whatever countertop and just really bounce in there. These dark values are not going to be this dark. Same thing over here. Everything's going to be glowy. Imagine it being hit with strong sunlight. It's just going to kind of glow with warmth and amazingness. Meanwhile, this character is going to fall into the shadow a little bit and still be illuminated by the bounce and all this light reflecting around, but is not going to be getting hit as much from the key light, especially the face. So I would play that in. The other thing I was saying too is that compositionally, I think we need to shift the camera over just a little bit, because we've got about this much room over here, and then this kind of goes right up against the edge. So just shifting everything over a little bit would be really helpful. And then look at some of the other submissions of this lighting challenge with the sugar cubes. The sugar cubes need a little subsurface to really feel that kind of sugar grain value, kind of warmth passing through them as well. All right, Krystina, the big thing I was going to have you work on based on the reference point here, or based on the reference images that you put in, was just, there's two things. One, the saturation. I think the saturation point on the greens, somebody mentioned this in the comments, but the saturation point in the greens is much stronger in the reference. I would try and match that where this is feeling a little bit on the brown side. The other one is the haze. So the haze is kind of falling off uniformly across everything, and it's causing these dark points to not go black. And it just makes the image overall, instead of feeling hazy, just feels desaturated. I'm sorry, like lower contrast, not so much saturated. And so what I was saying was like, you know, you look at these and you look at the black points and the darkest areas of the frame. So there's like, this is kind of like one, this in here is like one area of darkness. And there's two, which is kind of like all this stuff plus what's happening here. And then there's like three, which is everything in front of this. And then back behind is kind of four. And then this far off mountain is five in terms of, you know, like stepping back into space and how dark the darks are and how much contrast and blah, blah, blah. So I love that because it really tells a story of scale. Like it really pushes us back into the space there. And I would like to see more of that in here. It might be difficult with Unreal, but just something to go for. And then, and this was again, like depending on the final output, if this is a still image, I would consider pushing this cloud over here to kind of fill in some of this empty space up there. Because right now the image is feeling a little bit like weighted compositionally to the left. I would just put something in over there to kind of fill us in. And then the glowing bellies or orbs, I'm not quite sure what those are. If those are truly glowing, I would like to see some light emitting from them onto kind of like the surroundings, you know, like kind of light hitting the rope or light hitting the ground here or something like that. All right, Sylvain. So same thing. Let's go and take off. I made some adjustments here in the live. So same thing here. I think that we can structurally build up the light to dark fall off a little bit more. And that I think we can make this foreground a little bit darker. And then I think we can make the house in the middle a little bit darker, and then allow that like far background stuff to get to be like that, the super lifted, super fogginess, because that'll allow us to step back into space a little bit. This foreground's a little bit saturated. Let me pull that back. So it can be like darker but less contrasty, so it won't distract us and allow us to step back into space. Love the shadows you're getting in the windows. The variation in there looks really nice. Also, you know, you're getting some more light spilling out from the house, and I think that's just perfect. But yeah, the big thing is just working on that structure, and then we'll look at it from there. Ubed. So very cool. This is from the Unreal Marketplace, I think. And the biggest thing is that I am not totally convinced that this is being lit by sunlight, and that I think that we could really push a lot of this brighter. And again, like we don't necessarily need, it doesn't need to be like super bright, but if it's sunlight that's hitting it, that's not on a cloudy day, like I can see, you know, you can see in a couple of shots of sun coming in. You really want that strong sun intensity brightness to be hitting in there. And so I would push that, maybe push that warm sunsetty color a little bit as well. And then the other thing, but like if you wanted it to be more hazy and less colorful like this, then I would just make the sky more overcast. And then you would have much less direct light. It would be much, much softer light throughout. The other thing was these unleaded signs. They're kind of teetering between glowing and like being on and being off. So I would, because our eye, again, we're focused, we get drawn to faces, we get drawn to contrast, and we get drawn to like words. And so like, you know, there's a lot of words in this. Like there's this sign here, there's this sign here, sign. I'm not drawn to any of that because the contrast is way down. And there's even a no smoking sign there. This one I'm really drawn to. And again, there's no character, there's no like general thing in this image that's really going to draw my eye. Like so instead I'm really drawn to that because that's again like contrasty, it's reading. So unless that's really a strong story indicator, I would pull that back. And that would be the two biggest things I would work on, like making it feel like the sun hit more, and then toning down some of that unleaded stuff. And same thing with the brightness of that neon sign. You could probably push that one a little bit higher too. But overall, good stuff. All right, and then Miguel. So last one. Who was I'm sorry, I forget whose this was off the top of my head. Oh, Ronald. Sorry, Ronald. This was yours. Okay. And sorry, again, this is a spoiler from The Last of Us. Apologies to anyone who's watching that. Okay, so we've got character here, red light coming in this way, neutral light coming in this way, very balanced, very kind of like kind of a yin and yang, kind of a balancy thing. Same thing here, really nice. Line down the middle, shadows coming in this way, shadows coming in that way. I just feel like this light on the screen left side is too bright. And testing that with this basically it's a black image over top of everything, and I have the blending operation set to color, which is how I test kind of like the overall illumination point, like the value basically differences. So this is nice and bright over here. This feels a little bit more blended in with the background. And if you look at the original too, it's similar, but I feel like it's a little bit brighter on this side and a little bit darker on this side. So I feel like we could push, it might be a matter of just like pulling off some of the saturation on the light and pushing the intensity a little brighter, and then pulling back the intensity on this one. But yeah, overall it's like hitting the mark really well. You've got this like dark corner, which is looking really nice. Um, but yeah, I think overall it's looking great. It's just a matter of kind of nailing down those last couple of details. So, all right. Well, that is it for today. Thank you for following me along. I apologize for the recording getting kind of hosed in the original, but I will be back again for a live critique on Thursday. And in the meantime, we've got written critiques on Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you have any questions, let me know, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. All right. Happy lighting, everybody.